Okay, so in the middle of Perek Yud Aleph in Mesillas Yesharim, Perek Yud Aleph is Beprot Midas HaNikiyus. So we said Nikiyus is the person already doesn't kill people. He's at a darg where he's not committing murder, he's not robbing banks. So he feels that I have no connection to Ritzicha and I have no connection to theft. Then comes Nikiyus, where we realize that there are more subtle ways you can violate these averas that we would think that we would never do. So up to the section in Perek Yud Aleph, which is very relevant, where the Mesillas is going through those averas that sometimes we do with the chevra, amongst friends. So he starts with Oino, we did this last week a little bit, Oinos Dvarim. So a person is, let's say, at a kiddush, or he's at a bar mitzvah, at a wedding, and there's the chevra around. A person can say something to make everyone laugh at someone else's expense. And maybe at the time, it didn't feel that bad, but that person really did take it to heart. And one has to be very careful what you say, even in jest. If a person is offended by that, one violates the Isdaraisa of Einos Dvarim. And of course, if one's malbim pnei chaveroi, if you cause his face to change color, that's akin to Ritzicha. One has to be very careful, especially at times of simcha, that a person can lose himself for a moment and say something he shouldn't say, just to, for the joke, for the laugh, and that's very dangerous from a halachic perspective. We discussed last week in the Mesillas Eitzah, someone comes to you for a piece of advice, you have to be very careful, one has to be careful that he gives them the advice that's appropriate to them. We spoke out the mice with the briskarav, Eitzah hu genes loy, with the shoichet, he told the shoichet to stay in brisk because that was best for him. When someone comes to give advice from me, I have to make sure that I approach that and give him the proper advice. Then Rechilos and Lashon Hara. So the Gemara says that Kulan ba'avak Lashon Hara. Every Yid is nichshol with avak Lashon Hara. So to come out and denigrate the person, Barabin, usually we're careful with that, but it's the more subtle types of Lashon Hara that one has to be very careful not to be nichshol in. The Mesillas says by Lashon Hara that again, he said, like the Chavetz Chaim says, that up to 17 lav and one transgresses, 9 mitzvahs say. We came out a chiddush in our Lashon Hara that we have to Mincha Ma'ariv, now it's only on Sundays, that if a person dedicates his efforts in Yiddishkeit to the mitzvahs and averas with the mouth, which means Talmud Torah he makes number one, and Lashon Hara and Rechilos and Onos Dvarim he focuses on, and he gets his lulav and he gets his esrog and he has tzitzis and he does chesed. He focuses on the mouth mitzvahs and averas versus someone who has the best esrog and he's very medakik in Shemira Shabbos. We have to do everything. I'm not saying we should neglect anything. But if a person's if he puts all his koiches into or his main koiches into the mouth, in his scorecard of mitzvahs and averas, he's going to come out much far ahead than the person who's focusing on other things. Because with each word, which each thought of Lashon Hara, there are tens of transgressions. A person can't eat that much chazan in his lifetime compared to what he can say with Lashon Hara. Therefore, one must be very careful. Sinna and Nikima. We also have hatred and taking revenge. So the Mesillas says like this. He says, "Kashim oid l'sheyimalet mimena leiv husol asher levnei adam." It's very hard for one to be clean from sinna and nikima, from hatred and revenge. Ki ha'adam margish ma'oid be'el b'noisav u'mitztar tzar gadol. The biggest pains that someone can bear is not a physical pain. A person breaks his arm, that hurts. But when someone is pegay in someone else, when someone does something to me or says something that's offensive, there's a pain that's much worse than a physical pain. V'hanakamaloi, says the Mesillas Yesharim, the Ramchal, mesuka mitvash. And the revenge, the getting back at the person, is sweeter than honey. When a person's in such a situation, the only menucha he has is to say that line back to the person and make him feel bad, and that makes me feel good. So one has to be very, very careful when it comes to Nakama. We discussed, the Chavetz Chaim brings in his Hakdama to save the Chavetz Chaim, how do I deal with when a person does something to me that's wrong? The person's 100% wrong. I know that for a fact. And he hurt me. Whatever he did. How do I deal with that? How do I not have that sinner towards the person? So the Sefer Chinuch, the Chavetz Chaim quotes the Sefer Chinuch, which says that everything that happens to a person, HaKadosh Baruch Hu ordained that to happen. It was supposed to happen. Now, that this person did it So Kadosh Baruch Hu that doesn't absolve him. Hashem will take care of him, and Hashem will punish him. But from my perspective, so I deserve for this to happen to me. Now, in certain situations, it's very hard for us to understand, especially if it happens to the young kids. It's very hard to understand how bad things can happen. But at the end of the day, says the Sefer HaChinuch, whatever happens to a person, Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu felt that it's necessary for his growth. And so this person was the shliach to do it, and he'll be punished for what he did. But at the end of the day, I shouldn't have a sin necessarily towards him, because for what happened, because that was going to happen anyway. The Torah Devara also is meirich at length with how to react when a person ba'avels you, when a person perpetrates evil on you. And he says you have to look for the positive things about that person. The person has certain redeeming characteristics that I can look at him in a more positive light. And there's a mice that I've said a number of times here already, where in the shul in Melbourne that I was involved with, so after Shal Shuddis, it was like a 5 or 10 minute downtime, which could be a very dangerous thing in a shul. So downstairs in the base medrash in Davin, there would be a gathering of people around the bima, and once it got very loud and a lot of laughing coming out of that circle of people. So the rabbi went over to them and he said, it's inappropriate for a base medrash. So one of the guys said to him, "Oh, we were learning Torah, Rabbi. You're being choshev big shem. We were learning Torah." He said it very loud, and it was chutzpah. The rabbi was very upset. So I went up to Rabbi after davening, and I said that, we were talking about it, and I said that this person who said this, he's not a mean person. He's a nice person to Etzim. He's one of the members of the shul. He was I'm telling you, there's something happening, either shalom bayis, either chinuch, or something with parnasa. Usually it's one of those three things. I guarantee you there's something going on. So the rabbi approached him and said, by the way, I didn't like the way you spoke, but I'm just curious, is everything okay? And sure enough, there was some issue going on. Most people are not mean, cold-hearted people. Most people think they're l'shem shamayim. Most people, are in their minds are doing the right thing. They can be tremendously misguided, but their intention isn't usually. There are exceptions, but their intention usually is not just to bury someone. That's not what they're trying to do. It does happen in machlokes. In machlokes, that does happen. But b'derech klal, in some one-off, encounter with someone, he does something to me. Usually, it's like something like that happened in that shul. It wasn't a mean. There's something going on in his life that blurted out. So this helps us with our sin and our nikim. We have to realize that we cannot have that anger towards the other person. It's an obligation from the Torah not to hate another Jew. That's what the Mesillas says. One also has to be careful. Okay, Netira, Chavetz Chaim says in the Be'er Yonim, Netira is bearing a grudge. One is not allowed to bear a grudge. So how do you work that? How do you work on that? I mean, a person does something wrong to you, I can't bear the grudge. So he defines grudge as the following. He said in the Shiur, driving home after the incident when I'm stewing about what happened. That's a grudge. The fact that he ba'aveled me, and I have an issue with that, okay, that's I'm human. But it's the stewing. It's when it goes beyond what happened, and I exaggerate in my mind, that's the bearing the grudge. And that one has to be very careful to do. Yesharim continues into sheker, into lying, and there are some times when a person, there are certain people that they overtly just lie, and they just say sheker. But then we have times when all politicians. Yeah. We have times when you have unconfirmed stories, right? These things are deadly to spread stories. I heard Ruvain said, it happened in Melbourne. I'm sure it happens here also, that 10 people tell me something, right? Something happened. Now I know one person told me that he was there when it happened, right? And this is what happened. It was his uptouch, how he understood this interaction between two people. And then everyone tells me that it happened also. So I thought it happened around him, and everyone saw it. Turns out that one person told those 10 people. I heard from 11 people this is what happened. Really, it's based on one person. An unconfirmed story to spread that, like I know what really went on. I heard it from a person, is mamish deadly. It's poison in a community, in a city. So one has to be very careful. It says in Mesillas, it's also bechina of sheker, when it's an unconfirmed story. Anyway, it's none of your business also, you shouldn't be talking about it. But besides that, it's a bechina of sheker. Yechil Hashem also as well, the Mesillas discusses Chil Hashem, and Chil Hashem is not what we always think, that the person gets up there and just curses Chas v'Shalom. Chil Hashem says the mission of us, Echad Shoygi v'Echad Mezid, is also a Chil Hashem. Even if a person doesn't intend to be a Chil Hashem, the Amoraim would not buy meat on credit, because it looked like they were, taking advantage of their position, and therefore they didn't want it to look like that. Rabbi Yochanan says, "What's a Chil Hashem? Going Ana the Masigno Arba Amas B'loy Torah B'loy Tefillin." For me, says Rabbi Yochanan, to walk 4 amas, not learning Torah, not wearing tefillin, is a Chil Hashem. That's a Chil Hashem. It's not just when you see a Jew doing a Ponzi scheme. Unfortunately, it happens. That's a massive Chil Hashem. But for Rabbi Yochanan, not to wear talis and tefillin and not learn Torah for 4 amas is also Chil Hashem. Zok Mesillas Yesharim, my Indian. Shekol Adam Lefi Madrig Gasoy Lefi Mashu Nechshav Ein Hador. Each person on his level and how he's viewed by the people around him. He has to be careful not to do something that is inappropriate of his stature. According to the way he's viewed, he has to be careful with his zehirus. So there was a ma'aseh with the Chabina Rav in Yerushalayim that Shabbos afternoon he goes to take a nap. He gets into bed. A few minutes later, there's a knock on the door. So he ignores it. Then there's another knock on the door, 2 or 3 times. Maybe it's a danger, some kind of fascist. So he gets up, he goes to the door, he opens the door, and he sees a little kid, 8-year-old kid. And he says, what's the matter? He says, I just finished say the Mishnayos, I finished say the Moed, Mishnayos, and I want the Rabbi to feher me if that's possible. Okay, so he brought him into the house, he fehered him on the Mishnayos, and he did very well. So he gave him a little bit of cake, he gave him a drink. And as they were schmoozing, he tells him, by the way, you should know that people, Shabbos afternoon, people go and they lie down. So just be careful next time you go around, knock on the door at 3:30 in the afternoon. Just be aware that people, sometimes lie down. So the kid was embarrassed and he said, I'm sorry. He said innocently, he says, I didn't think a Rebbe sleeps during the day. From then on, he never slept again during the day. Wow. He said, if that is how I'm viewed, an innocent kid, right, from the mouth of babes, they say. An innocent kid, if that's how I'm viewed, he held it's a Chilul Hashem for me to sleep in the afternoon. Wow. So we have to realize ourselves, in the Hollywood community in South Florida, when we travel abroad with our no Jews, we have to realize that people look up to us. If we're wearing a kappel, when we look a certain way, people look up to us. And for us not to act l'fnim mishuras hadin for the other person, for us is a Chilul Hashem, like a Ponzi scheme. Each person on their level. That's the keyest. The keyest things, if I don't get caught doing a Ponzi scheme, so that's not a Chilul Hashem. We have to realize we have to realize who we are, how we're viewed, and be very careful to live up to that standard.